Adrian, the left monitor is dead again. Sienna Ward held an audio cable behind her without turning around. She expected me to take it. Of course she did. For 3 years, that was how things worked. Something went wrong backstage, Sienna said my name, and I appeared. A bad microphone before a student fundraiser. A corrupted music file before a dance showcase. A missing extension cable 10 minutes before the spring assembly. It didn't matter what the problem was. If Sienna needed something fixed, I fixed it. In my last life, I kept doing that long after high school ended. For 10 years. This time, I looked at the cable in her hand and realized I was 17 again. The gym smelled like floor polish, warm electronics, and cheap hairspray. Students in event shirts moved around the temporary stage. A dance team practiced behind the curtain. Someone tested a microphone and made the speakers shriek. Exactly the same afternoon. Exactly the same broken monitor. Exactly the same moment I had once thrown away something important for Sienna Ward. She finally turned. Her dark ponytail swung over one shoulder. Even wearing a school event headset and carrying a clipboard, she somehow looked like she belonged at the center of whatever room she entered. That was why people called her the campus queen. Not because she was simply pretty. Sienna could walk into a chaotic gym, remember 20 names, fix 3 scheduling problems, convince a teacher to approve something they had rejected yesterday, and still make a nervous freshman feel like the most important person in the room. Everyone knew her. Everyone liked her. I had loved her. For 10 years. She lifted the cable slightly. Adrian? In my first life, I took it. I missed the regional youth production workshop across town because Sienna's showcase needed me backstage. I told myself there would be another opportunity. There wasn't. That evening became the first of hundreds of times I rearranged my life around hers. At 21, I changed my college internship because she moved cities. At 24, I turned down a touring production job because she said she was going through a difficult year. At 27, I still answered her calls at midnight. At 28, I finally asked what we were. Sienna had looked genuinely hurt. Adrian, you're one of the most important people in my life. That had been the problem. One of the most important. Never the one she chose. I blinked. 17 again. The cable was still hanging between us. I adjusted my backpack. You should ask production. Sienna frowned. You are production. Not today. She stared at me. What? I nodded toward the student crew wearing blue badges. Eli's running sound. Eli Navarro, 2 tables away, looked up when he heard his name. Sienna glanced at him, then back at me. But you always handle the stage monitors. I know. Her expression changed slightly. Not hurt. Not yet. Mostly confusion. The old Adrian had trained her too well. She lowered the cable. Are you mad at me? No. Did I do something? No. Then what is this? I almost smiled. That question was so Sienna. If something around her changed, she immediately tried to understand the cause. In my first life, I mistook that attention for intimacy. Now I knew better. I have somewhere to be. Her eyes flicked toward the clock mounted above the bleachers. The showcase starts in 40 minutes. I know. And you're leaving? Yes. Sienna actually laughed once, as though I had made a strange joke. I didn't move. The laugh disappeared. Adrian. There was a different tone now. Not commanding. Not exactly. Just certain I would eventually give in. I knew that tone too. I had spent 10 years answering it. This time, I tightened the strap of my bag. I'm not on your crew. Then I walked away. Behind me, Sienna called my name again. I kept walking. My hands were shaking by the time I reached the parking lot. Not because I regretted it. Because I didn't. That scared me more. In my first life, walking away from Sienna Ward had felt impossible even at 28. At 17, it took less than 30 seconds. I climbed into my old Honda and checked the time. 3:26. The youth production workshop check-in closed at 4. If traffic cooperated, I could make it. I started the engine. For once, I didn't look back at the gym. The workshop was being held at the Harrington Civic Theater, a renovated brick building downtown that hosted touring plays, local concerts, school productions, and the occasional comedian my father complained about being too expensive. I arrived at 3:53. A woman with silver-rimmed glasses was already removing the check-in sign. Please tell me you're Adrian Cole. I stopped. Yes. Good. You're the last one. She handed me a badge. Regional Youth Live Production Program. My name was printed underneath. I stared at it longer than I should have. In my first life, that badge had never existed. You coming in? She asked. Yeah. I followed her through a black backstage corridor. 10 students had already gathered near the main stage. Some were theater kids. One wore a community radio shirt. Another had a battered hard case covered in band stickers. Nobody knew who Sienna Ward was. Nobody expected me to fix anything for her. For the first time that afternoon, I felt 17 instead of 30. The workshop director introduced himself as Marcus Vale, a live production engineer who had spent 15 years handling concerts, corporate events, and regional theater. He didn't start with a speech. He killed the house lights. Then he said, "You have 8 minutes to get this stage ready for a 4-person acoustic set." Everyone moved. So did I. A girl near the console immediately reached for the lighting controls. 2 guys started running microphone stands. I checked the stage box. 4 inputs. 2 monitors. 1 DI. The right monitor cable had been wrapped badly and was already twisting near the connector. I crouched and fixed it. Muscle memory. Not from some magical future knowledge. From years of work I had always loved but never allowed to become my real life. Marcus watched without saying anything. When time was up, we tested the setup. 1 microphone was dead. Nobody panicked. Marcus smiled. Good. Now find out why. I did. Bad XLR cable. Simple. The kind of problem Sienna would once have called my name for. Here, fixing it didn't make me useful to one person. It made me better at something I wanted. That difference felt enormous. After the practical session, Marcus handed out program requirements. This workshop is only the first screening, he said. 4 of you will be selected for the spring mentorship. My pulse quickened. He continued. To qualify, you'll submit a technical portfolio by the end of the month. I want one example of a live event where you had meaningful independent responsibility. Signal plan, equipment list, problem log, and a reflection on what you would change. I looked down at the packet. That was reasonable. Then I reached the eligibility section. School or community event with 100 plus attendees. I read it again. Most of my technical work had been at Briarwood High. More specifically, most of it had been on events Sienna organized. The showcase I had just walked out of would have qualified perfectly. Except I was no longer on the crew. Marcus continued talking, but I barely heard him. I had escaped one bad decision only to discover that my future still crossed directly through Sienna's world. The difference was that this time, I needed something from the work. Not from her. That distinction mattered. I folded the packet and put it into my backpack. I could find another event. There had to be one. I was not going back just because it was convenient. My phone buzzed. I expected Dad. It was Sienna. Where are you? I stared at the message. Then another appeared. The showcase is over. Then, Eli fixed the monitor. I almost laughed. Good. That was exactly what was supposed to happen. Another message. You really left. I typed. I told you I had somewhere to be. The reply came immediately. Where? I hesitated. Old habits told me to explain everything. Where I went. Why it mattered. How long I would be there. Whether she needed anything tomorrow. Instead, I typed. Workshop. 3 dots appeared. What workshop? I put my phone away. Marcus had started explaining signal flow diagrams. I wanted to hear him. The next morning, Sienna was waiting beside my locker. That had never happened before. Usually, I was the one finding her. I stopped several feet away. She held 2 drinks. 1 iced tea. 1 coffee. She looked down at them, then seemed annoyed with herself. I forgot you hate coffee. You never knew I hated coffee. Her head came up. That landed harder than I intended. Sienna stared at me for a second, then handed the coffee to a passing student. Congratulations, she said. The guy looked confused but took it. She kept the iced tea. I opened my locker. What workshop? Straight to it. Live production. The regional one? I looked at her. You know it? Ms. Greer posted it in the activities office last month. Of course she knew. Sienna knew everything happening on campus. You applied? Yes. When? 3 weeks ago. Her eyebrows pulled together. You never told me. There it was again. Not accusation exactly. Expectation. I closed my locker. You never asked. Sienna fell quiet. A group of students passed us, 2 of them greeting her. She smiled automatically, said hello, then turned back to me. Are you still mad? No. You left 40 minutes before the showcase after saying almost nothing. I said I wasn't on the crew. You were on the crew Tuesday. I changed my mind. She studied me. You don't change your mind like this. I nearly laughed. She had no idea how much experience I had doing exactly the opposite. How long are you planning to keep this up? She asked. I frowned. Keep what up? Her confidence flickered. This. That clears it up. Ignoring me. I'm talking to you right now. You know what I mean. Actually, I didn't. Or maybe I did, and I wanted her to hear herself say it. Sienna lowered her voice. You've been around me since sophomore year. You volunteer for every event I run. You text me before major rehearsals. You check whether I need anything. She stopped. For the first time, uncertainty entered her expression. You always. She didn't finish. I waited. She looked irritated by that. What? Nothing. No. Say it. Sienna stared at me. You always show up. That sentence belonged to another life. At 28, I had once told her exactly that. I always show up for you. I thought it sounded devoted. Now I heard the problem. You're right, I said. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. Then I added, I did. Past tense. She caught it. Why? Because 10 years was enough. Because I already knew how this ended. Because I had spent too much of my life turning her needs into my schedule. None of those answers belonged in a high school hallway. So I gave her the one that did. I have other things I want to do. Sienna looked at me as if that answer somehow made less sense than anger. Like the workshop. Yeah. What happens if you get selected? Spring mentorship. Where? Harrington. That's Thursdays. I stared at her. How do you know my schedule already? I looked it up last night. That surprised me. Sienna seemed to realize what she had admitted. She adjusted the strap of her bag. I was curious. Okay. And what? Are you going to do it? If I get in. But Thursday is our spring event planning night. I almost smiled. She stopped. You know what I mean. No, I really don't. The Founders Showcase. There it was. Briarwood's largest spring student event. Sienna had chaired it the previous 2 years. In my last life, I had handled almost the entire backstage technical plan. I remembered the exact night. I also remembered turning down a mentorship interview because rehearsals ran late. Sienna must have seen recognition on my face. You're still doing tech for it, right? No. Her mouth opened, then closed. Adrian. I'm serious. But you've done it every year. That doesn't mean I have to do it this year. She stared at me. I could almost see her searching for the hidden argument, the punishment, the game, something that would make my behavior easier to understand. Finally she said, Is this because I never gave you an answer? I went still. She regretted the sentence immediately. I could tell. In this life, I hadn't confessed yet. Not officially. But everyone knew I liked her. Sienna knew too. For years, I had made sure she knew without ever forcing her to respond. Flowers on her birthday. Late-night messages. Showing up whenever she needed me. A dozen half-confessions disguised as favors. She had never rejected me. That was how I managed to keep hoping. I looked at her now. No. Her face changed. No, this isn't about getting an answer from you. Then what is it about? Me. She actually looked stunned. That hurt a little. Then it became funny. I smiled despite myself. See you in class, Sienna. I walked away. This time she didn't call me back. At lunch, Eli dropped into the seat across from me. You broke Ward. I looked up from the production packet. She seemed functional in history. I watched her ask 3 people where you went yesterday. That doesn't mean she's broken. She asked me. I stopped reading. What? She asked me why you weren't running sound. What did you say? The truth. You weren't assigned. Good. Eli stole one of my fries. She looked personally betrayed by the concept of a crew schedule. I laughed. Then he noticed the packet. What's that? I explained the mentorship portfolio requirement. He read the event criteria. You need a 100-person event? Yeah. You've got tons. Old ones don't count. It has to be this academic year, and I need full documentation. The Founders Showcase. No. You hate easy answers now? I'm not doing Sienna's event. Eli leaned back. Why are you saying it like it belongs to her? The school runs it. She chairs it. And I'm trying not to rebuild my entire schedule around her. Eli studied me for a moment. Unlike Sienna, he didn't ask why I had suddenly changed. He just nodded toward the packet. Then don't. I just said I won't. No. I mean don't build your schedule around avoiding her either. That shut me up. Eli tapped the eligibility line. You need a real event. Founders is the biggest one this semester. Apply as technical lead through activities, set your responsibilities in writing, get your documentation, and leave when your job is finished. I looked at him. That sounds annoyingly reasonable. I have moments. The problem was, he was right. If I refused a useful opportunity solely because Sienna was involved, she would still be controlling my decisions. Just backward. That wasn't freedom. That was reaction. I folded the packet. Fine. Eli grinned. I'll witness this historic moment of emotional maturity. Eat your own fries. At 3:20, I went to the activities office. Not to find Sienna. To submit a technical lead application. Ms. Greer read it, then looked pleasantly surprised. You want founders? I want responsibility for stage audio and technical documentation. That's specific. I need it for an external portfolio. Good. Specific is easier. She pulled out the event staffing sheet. There's one issue. Of course there was. Sienna already submitted a preferred crew list. I looked down. My name was at the top. Adrian Cole, technical production. No role description. No defined hours. Just my name, exactly where she expected it to be. Ms. Greer glanced between the paper and me. Is that a problem? I took a pen. No. I crossed out Sienna's line. Then wrote beneath it. Technical lead, stage audio only. Equipment plan, rehearsal block, event operation, strike. I added the exact hours. Ms. Greer read it. That's unusually formal for you. I'm trying something new. She smiled. I'll approve it if Sienna signs the updated responsibility sheet. I nearly laughed. Of course. I had spent an entire day walking away from her. Now my first serious step toward my own future required her signature. But this time, I wasn't going to her because she needed me. I was going because I had terms. That felt completely different. When I stepped into the hallway, Sienna was standing at the far end beside the trophy cases. She saw the paper in my hand. Then she saw me. And she walked straight toward me, not waiting for me to come to her. For the first time in either life, Sienna Ward was the one closing the distance. Sienna stopped in front of me and looked down at the responsibility sheet. Then she looked back up. You crossed out my crew assignment. I rewrote it. You crossed it out first. That was the dramatic part. She did not smile. I handed her the paper. My hours are there. My responsibilities are there. I'll handle stage audio, rehearsal, event operation, and strike. Nothing outside that unless we agree on it in advance. Sienna read the sheet carefully. Then again. I watched her expression shift from confusion to annoyance. This is for founders? Yes. You told me you weren't doing it. I said I wasn't doing your event the way I used to. It is my event. No, it's the school's event. You chair it. Her eyes narrowed. You're being extremely specific today. I'm trying to make it a habit. She looked back at the paper. Then at me. This is because of that production workshop. Partly. What's the rest? I don't want to spend senior year being the person everybody calls whenever something breaks. Sienna's face changed. You mean me. I mean everybody. You mean me. I almost denied it. Then I thought about how many times, in my first life, I had softened the truth until neither of us had to face it. So I said, mostly you. For once, Sienna had no immediate response. Students moved around us in the hallway. Someone called her name from the activities office, but she ignored them. Finally she asked, Did I make you feel like that? The question surprised me. Not because she sounded guilty. Because she sounded genuinely unsure. You got used to me always being available. She looked down at the paper. I thought you wanted to be. I did. That mattered. I wasn't going to rewrite history just because I had regrets. Nobody forced me to chase Sienna for 10 years. Nobody forced me to answer every call. I had chosen that. Over and over. I like being useful to you, I said. I just stopped noticing when useful became automatic. Sienna was quiet. Then she handed the paper back. You need my signature. Yes. You still want it? If you agree to the role as written. Her mouth tightened. You're really treating this like a contract. I'm trying to treat it like work. She studied me for several seconds. Then she took the pen. I expected her to sign. Instead, she added one line under my schedule. Additional requests require technical lead approval. Then she signed her name. I looked at the new sentence. That was unnecessary. No. You were worried I'd start adding things. I was. Now I can't. I glanced at her. There was no sarcasm in her face. She had actually listened. Thanks. You're welcome. She gave me the pen. Then she did something stranger. She didn't leave. I waited. Sienna waited too. What? She folded her arms. You ignored my question yesterday. Which one? What workshop? You figured it out. I looked it up. I noticed. What part are you applying for? Live production mentorship. I know that. What do you actually want to do? The old Adrian would have been thrilled. Sienna Ward asking about my future? I would have stretched the conversation for 20 minutes. This time, I answered because I wanted to answer. Concert and event audio. Maybe touring production eventually. She blinked. Touring? Maybe. You hate sleeping anywhere except your own bed. I can change. You complain when hotel pillows are too soft. I stared at her. How do you know that? You complained during the sophomore leadership trip. That was 2 years ago. Yes. I didn't know why that bothered me. Or why it didn't. Sienna remembered. Not the dramatic things. Not the favors. A stupid complaint about a pillow. I pushed that thought away. The point is, I want to try it. She nodded slowly. Then said, You're good at it. I looked at her. You know that? She gave me an almost offended look. You've run sound for nearly every major school event since sophomore year. That isn't what I asked. Sienna paused. I could see her thinking. Then she said, Yes. I know you're good at it. For a moment, neither of us spoke. That was exactly the kind of sentence the old me would have carried around for months. One compliment. One look. One tiny piece of evidence. Enough to keep chasing. I folded the responsibility sheet. See you at planning. Then I walked away. This time, I could feel her staring after me. The first founders planning meeting was Thursday at 4. I arrived at 3:58. Not early enough to help Sienna set up chairs. That was deliberate. Eli was already there, leaning back in his seat with a bag of pretzels. You survived the signature meeting. Barely. He looked at my sheet. She added a clause? Apparently we're multinational corporations now. Eli read it. Actually, this is smart. Don't encourage her. She gave you exactly what you asked for. I know. That seems to be bothering you. It isn't. It is. I ignored him. At 4, Sienna started the meeting. She was good. Annoyingly good. She moved through attendance, volunteer assignments, stage schedule, publicity, guest seating, and performer transitions without wasting time. In my first life, I had always admired that. Then I had made the mistake of assuming competence in public meant she needed nothing in private. Halfway through the meeting, she reached the technical schedule. Adrian? I looked up. Stage audio planned by Tuesday? Yes. Performer input list by Monday? I need confirmed acts first. I'll have them by Friday. Good. She moved on. No extra request. No casual, can you also fix the backstage cue system? No, you're better at this, just handle it. I should have been relieved. Instead, I found myself noticing how hard she was trying not to ask. That was dangerous. After the meeting, everybody packed up. Sienna stayed at the front table. I put my laptop away. Adrian. I stopped. Here it came. She held up a roll of tape. Do you know where the label printer is? I stared at her. She immediately looked irritated. What? Nothing. You're making a face. I thought you were about to ask me to do something. I asked where something is. Different category. She pointed toward the storage cabinet. Do you know? Second shelf, left side. Thanks. I started toward the door. Adrian. I turned again. She looked like she hated herself for needing to say the next sentence. The cable labels are wrong. I waited. She waited too. Then her eyes narrowed. You're enjoying this. A little. Fine. I am not asking you to fix them. Good. I am asking whether incorrect labels will cause a problem. Yes. How much of a problem? Depends whether you enjoy hearing the jazz ensemble through the dance team's monitor. That sounds bad. It would be memorable. Sienna sighed. Can you tell me what needs changing? That was different. Not do it for me. Tell me. I walked back to the table. Show me. She spread out the stage map. For the next 6 minutes, I explained the input numbers, which labels were duplicated, and which line would need to move because the piano position had changed. Sienna took notes. Then she said, Okay. I waited. Okay, what? I'll fix it. I looked at her. What? She gave me the exact expression I deserved. Did you think I was incapable of operating a label printer? No. You did. I thought you were going to hand it to me. I considered it. Progress. Don't make me regret signing your little contract. I smiled. And left. The first thing to go wrong happened Monday. It wasn't dramatic. That was what made it useful. One of the student bands changed songs. Their new arrangement needed a keyboard DI and a second vocal mic. In my first life, Sienna would have texted me the change with a single sentence. Can you handle this? And I would have done everything. Checked inventory, found the equipment, updated the stage plot, changed the cue sheet, probably sent her a message at midnight telling her not to worry. This time, my phone buzzed during dinner. Band 3 changed setup. New requirements attached. Does this affect your plan? I opened the attachment, then replied, yes. I need a second DI. We only have one in school inventory. 3 dots. Can we borrow one? Probably. Ask Greer whether theater storage has one. A minute passed. She says yes. Then, anything else? I check the stage plan. Move them 5 minutes earlier in sound check. Keyboard takes longer. Another pause. Done. That was it. No rescue. No midnight scramble. She handled her part. I handled mine. It felt almost disappointingly normal. Then another message appeared. Did you eat? I stared at it. That was not about founders. I typed, yes. She replied, what? I frowned. Food. The answer came immediately. Adrian. I laughed despite myself. Chicken sandwich. 3 dots. You hate chicken sandwiches. I stared at the screen. Again. Another stupid thing she remembered. I typed, it was available. She replied, that is not the same as liking it. I put my phone face down. My mother looked across the table. Who are you smiling at? No one. That is always a lie. I stopped smiling. Mostly. Tuesday afternoon, the regional workshop held its second session. This time, Marcus put us behind the mixing console. He played recordings from live events and asked us to identify problems. Feedback. Poor gain staging. Monitor bleed. Bad microphone placement. Then he gave us a simulated event plan and said, you have 30 minutes. Build me a technical schedule that survives human beings. Someone asked what that meant. Marcus smiled. Performers arrive late. Organizers change things. Equipment fails. A good plan is not the one that assumes everyone behaves. I liked that immediately. By the end of the session, Marcus stopped beside my work. You've done school events before. A lot. Too much? I looked up. He had noticed something in my face. Maybe. He pointed at my schedule. You're good at anticipating other people. Is that bad? Not unless you forget to build your own job into the plan. I looked at the page. He was right. I had created buffers for performers, for organizers, for setup, for mistakes. But my own meal break was missing. So it was time for documentation. I laughed once. What? Nothing. Somebody else has been telling me the same thing. Marcus nodded. Smart person. I almost said sometimes. Then I caught myself. When I returned to school the next morning, Sienna was waiting outside the audio booth. Again. I stopped. You know I have classes before lunch. I know. Then why are you here at 7:45? She held up a flash drive. The backup audio files. I stared at it. What about them? I made them. That took me a second. All of them? Yes. Correct formats? Yes. Normalized? Yes. Named by act and cue? She looked offended. Yes. I took the drive. Who helped you? No one. I looked at her. She crossed her arms. I watched the tutorial you sent Eli last year. I didn't remember sending it. She did. I thought you didn't care about technical stuff. I care when I'm responsible for it. That sentence stopped me. Maybe that was the problem in my first life. I had been so eager to remove burdens from Sienna that I never gave her the chance to become responsible for them. I checked the files. They were organized perfectly. Good job. She smiled. Not the campus queen smile she used on crowds. Smaller. More satisfied. Then she leaned against the wall. So, how was the workshop? I looked at her. You came here at 7:45 to ask that? I came to give you the drive. You could have left it with Eli. I wanted to give it to you. There was something different in her voice. Not enough to name. Enough to notice. I held up the drive. Thanks. She stayed. I waited. Finally Sienna said, you haven't texted me first in 11 days. I almost laughed. You counted? Her face changed. No. That sounded extremely counted. I noticed. That sounds healthier. She glared at me. Then she said, do you know how weird this is? For you? Yes. I leaned against the opposite wall. Sienna, I'm not doing this to punish you. I know. You do? She nodded. That surprised me. At first I thought you were. And now? She looked down at the floor. Now I think you actually stopped. The hallway suddenly felt too quiet. Stopped what? Her eyes met mine. Chasing me. There was no teasing in her face. No triumph either. Just uncertainty. I could have lied. Instead I said, yeah. Sienna swallowed. Then nodded once. Okay. She pushed away from the wall. For a moment, I thought she would leave. Then she took 2 steps toward me. Are we still friends? I stared at her. In my first life, that word had kept me trapped for years. But this Sienna was 17. She had not made those future choices yet. And I did not want my second chance to become a punishment for things she hadn't done. We can be. Her shoulders relaxed. Then I added, but I'm not going back to how it was. I didn't ask you to. Good. She nodded. Then she did something I had never seen her do around me. She looked nervous. Can I ask you something that has nothing to do with founders? Sure. Do you want to get lunch tomorrow? I stared at her. She immediately added, not because I need anything. That almost made me smile. No broken equipment? No. No schedule problem? No. No emergency cable? Adrian. I'm checking. She took a breath. Lunch. Because I want to have lunch with you. There it was. Simple. No crisis. No job. No reason for me to be useful. The old me would have said yes before she finished the sentence. This time, I made myself think. Not because I wanted to play hard to get. Because I wanted my yes to mean something too. I have workshop prep during lunch tomorrow. Her expression fell slightly. But Friday works. She looked up. Friday? Yeah. The smile that appeared was immediate. Bright. Real. Friday. Then she walked away. I watched her for exactly 3 seconds before forcing myself toward class. My phone buzzed before I reached the stairs. A message from Sienna. Friday. No problems to fix. Then another. I'm putting that in writing so you can't accuse me later. I smiled. And that was when I realized ignoring Sienna had not made her disappear from my life. It had done something much more dangerous. For the first time, she was learning how to enter it without needing anything from me. I expected Friday lunch to be awkward. That was the problem. I kept assuming every interaction with Sienna would carry the weight of the last 10 years. But she didn't know those 10 years. She didn't know the nights I waited for messages that never came. She didn't know how many opportunities one had quietly traded away. She didn't know I had already watched this relationship reach its ending. To her, I was just Adrian, the guy who suddenly stopped doing everything she expected. That was probably why she looked so confused. She was already sitting outside when I arrived. Not at the usual table. That surprised me. The usual table was near the center of the cafeteria, where everyone could see her. Friends stopped by. Teachers greeted her. Younger students asked about clubs. This table was near the windows. Quiet. I sat down across from her. You moved. Sienna looked around. Is that a problem? No. Then why did you say it like one? Because you've sat at the same table for 3 years. She opened her lunch container. I wanted somewhere quieter. That was new. The old Sienna loved crowds. Or at least, I thought she did. Maybe she just knew how to handle them. How's the workshop? Good. Just good? It's a workshop. You're impossible. I smiled. That's usually your line. She paused, then smiled slightly. Fair. For a few minutes, we ate. No emergency. No request. No hidden reason. It was strange. I realized something uncomfortable. I had spent so many years wanting a normal conversation with Sienna that I had forgotten I didn't actually know what a normal conversation with her looked like. The version I knew was built around problems. Her problems. My solutions. So what does a live production engineer actually do? I looked up. Besides fix things? She nodded. Yeah. I thought about it. Make sure people don't notice you. Sienna frowned. That sounds depressing. It's kind of the point. How? Good production means the audience sees the performance, not the mistakes behind it. She considered that. That sounds like you. I laughed. What does that mean? You like making things work without needing credit. The words should have felt flattering. Instead, they made me uncomfortable. Because she was right. That was exactly why I had spent so long chasing her. I like being useful. I just forgot I deserved to be chosen too. I'm trying to change that. Sienna looked at me. Why? The question was simple. The answer wasn't. Because I died regretting it. Because I wasted 10 years. Because I got a second chance. None of those belonged here. So I said, because I want to know who I am when I'm not helping someone else. Sienna went quiet. For once, she didn't immediately respond. After lunch, we walked back toward class. At the hallway intersection, she stopped. Adrian. Yeah? Can I ask something? Sure. Before. She hesitated. Before you changed. I knew what she meant. When you helped me with things. Yes? Did you actually enjoy it? That question caught me off guard. I could have given the easy answer. No. I was only doing it because I like you. That would have made everything simpler. But it wouldn't have been true. Yes. Sienna looked surprised. I did. Then why stop? Because something can make you happy and still become unhealthy. She looked down. That's complicated. Yeah. I don't like that answer. I know. But it makes sense. I looked at her. That was another thing I forgot about Sienna. She wasn't shallow. She was just comfortable. Comfortable people often didn't realize how much effort was holding their world together. The next week of Founders preparation was the first time we worked together differently. Not perfectly. Differently. Sienna still moved fast. I still noticed problems before she did. The difference was what happened next. Before, I solved them. Now, I told her. Then she decided. A performer needed a different stage position? I explained the audio impact. She adjusted the schedule. A volunteer wanted to add another performance? I explained the technical limit. She said no. The first time she made that decision, she looked at me afterward. Was that okay? I blinked. What? I said no. To what? To the extra performance. Why are you asking me? She looked confused. Because you know the technical side. That doesn't mean I know the event better than you. She thought about that, then nodded. Right. And she walked away. That tiny moment mattered more than I expected. Because Sienna was learning something I had never allowed her to learn. How to stay in without me holding everything up. The problem came 2 weeks before Founders. Not with the event. With the mentorship program. Marcus called me after the workshop session. Adrian. I stepped aside. Yeah? Your portfolio is strong. That was not what I expected. Thanks. You have good instincts. But you're missing one thing. What? Leadership. I frowned. I lead the sound team. You organize technical work. He shook his head. Different thing. I waited. Leadership is making decisions when the solution affects people who don't agree with you. I thought about that. Then he handed me a sheet. Mentorship candidates need one documented leadership example. I read the requirement. Led a live production project. Coordinate a team. Manage conflicts. There it was. The exact thing I had avoided. Not because I couldn't do it. Because I had spent years being the person behind someone else. Founders. Marcus nodded. Exactly. I looked at the form. You think I should use it? I think you already are. That afternoon, I found Sienna in the auditorium. She was sitting on the edge of the stage, reviewing the event schedule. I stopped. She looked up. You're early. I need something. The words came out naturally. Then I noticed. Sienna noticed too. A small smile appeared. You need something from me? Yes. She closed the schedule. What? I need to officially lead the technical team for Founders. She stared. You already are. No. I mean actually lead it. She tilted her head. I thought you hated responsibility. I hate responsibility without control. That made her smile. Okay. Okay? Yes. That easy? She shrugged. You're good at it. I stared at her. That's it? What else should there be? I don't know. Sienna looked thoughtful. Then said, You think I'm supposed to make this difficult? I didn't answer. Because maybe I did. In my first life, every step toward her felt like something I had to earn. This time, she simply trusted me. That was almost harder. The technical team meeting was the next day. 5 students showed up. 3 were experienced. 2 were freshmen who had never worked backstage before. The old Adrian would have done everything himself. He would have explained every cable, checked every list, fixed every mistake before anyone noticed. This time, I divided responsibilities. Eli handled stage communication. A freshman named Tyler handled equipment inventory. Another student handled lighting coordination. Everyone had a role. Everyone had ownership. It felt uncomfortable. Then it worked. After the meeting, Sienna appeared at the door. She watched the team leave. You're different. I packed my laptop. Good different? She nodded. Definitely. How? She thought for a moment. Before, you always made things easier. That sounds positive. It was. She looked around the empty auditorium. But now you make people better. I stopped. That was not something I expected from her. Sienna sat beside me on the stage. I didn't realize. Realize what? How much you were doing. I looked away. Most people don't. I should have. The honesty surprised me. I didn't want to punish her for not seeing something she had never been forced to see. You were busy. That's not an excuse. No. She looked at me. But it's true. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she asked, "Are you happier?" The question was so simple that I almost didn't answer. Yes. She nodded. Good. You're not upset? Why would I be upset that you're happier? That was probably the healthiest thing Sienna had ever said to me. And somehow, it made my chest tighten. The next day, something happened that reminded me why boundaries mattered. A performer's microphone failed during rehearsal. The old reflex hit instantly. Fix it. Jump in. Solve everything. I was already moving when I stopped. Sienna was closer. She picked up the backup plan. She called Eli. She adjusted the rehearsal order. She solved it. Not perfectly. Not instantly. But she solved it. When everything was stable again, she looked at me. Waiting. I smiled. Good job. She looked almost offended. That's all? What did you want? I don't know. She laughed softly. I guess I expected you to tell me what I did wrong. That's a strange expectation. Probably. Then she looked at the stage. I'm learning. I nodded. So am I. That night, I received an email from Marcus. The mentorship committee had reviewed my preliminary materials. They wanted an additional interview. Good news. Except the interview was scheduled the same evening as the final Founders rehearsal. I stared at the two dates. In my first life, there would have been no decision. Founders won. Always. Sienna needed me. The school needed me. Everyone expected me. But this time, I sat there thinking. Not about what Sienna needed. Not about what everyone expected. About what I wanted. The interview was my future. The rehearsal was a commitment I had made. Both mattered. So I did something I had never done before. I didn't silently sacrifice one. I opened my phone. And I messaged Sienna. I need to talk about the final rehearsal schedule. Her reply came within a minute. Problem? I smiled slightly. Old Sienna would have assumed problem meant emergency. New Sienna was learning. I typed. No. Decision. 3 dots appeared. Then. Okay. Let's talk. I looked at the message. A month ago, I would have thought the most surprising thing was Sienna chasing after me. I was wrong. The most surprising thing was this. For the first time, we were becoming two people who could stand beside each other. Not one person carrying the other. Sienna was waiting for me in the auditorium after school. That alone was strange. Not because she never stayed late. She did. Sienna Ward was usually the last person to leave any event. The difference was that in my first life, I was always the one staying with her. Carrying equipment. Checking schedules. Making sure she remembered to eat. This time, she was sitting alone on the edge of the stage with 2 bottles of water beside her. One was pushed toward my usual seat. I noticed. She noticed me noticing. I bought 2. I looked at the bottle. Why? She shrugged. Because you're probably going to forget. I almost smiled. That sounds familiar. What? Nothing. I sat down. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then Sienna looked at the schedule in my hand. You said you had a decision. Yeah. The mentorship interview? I nodded. Her expression changed slightly. You got one? Yeah. That's great. The answer came too quickly. Not fake. Just automatic. Then she asked. When is it? I told her. Her eyes moved to the rehearsal schedule. Then back to me. Oh. One word. But I heard the hesitation. The old Adrian would have immediately solved the problem. He would have said, "It's okay. I'll skip it." He would have waited for her to say, "Are you sure?" Then he would have done it anyway. This time, I waited. Sienna looked at the 2 dates. Final rehearsal is that night. Yes. She tapped the schedule with her finger. The technical team needs you. They need a technical lead. You are the technical lead. Yes. The silence stretched. Then she asked, "What do you want to do?" The question surprised me. Because she didn't ask. What can you do? What would make things easier? What do we need? She asked what I wanted. I want to go to the interview. Sienna nodded. Okay. That was it. I stared at her. That's all? What else? I don't know. She looked confused. Adrian, you should go. You're not upset? No. But rehearsal can happen without you. I looked at her. That sentence would have meant nothing to most people. To me, it meant everything. Because in my first life, neither of us believed that. I thought she needed me. She thought I would always be there. We were both wrong. You really mean that? Sienna frowned. Yes. Even if the rehearsal goes badly? Yes. Even if someone makes a mistake? Yes. Even if you have to solve something yourself? That one made her pause. Then she smiled slightly. Especially then. I laughed. Wow. What? You've changed. She looked at me. I was about to say the same thing. The next week became the busiest week of my senior year. Not because I was doing more. Because I was finally doing the right things. I prepared for the mentorship interview. I trained the technical team. I finished the founder's audio plan. I slept more than 5 hours most nights, which Eli considered a miracle. You're becoming a responsible person, he said. That sounds insulting. It is. Fair. The strange part was Sienna and I worked better than before. Not because we were closer. Because we were clearer. She stopped assuming. I stopped anticipating. That removed a lot of invisible pressure. One afternoon, she came into the auditorium holding a stack of performer schedules. I need your opinion. I looked up. On the order. I checked the list. The jazz group should go before the dance team. Why? Because the dance team needs a full reset afterward. Lighting, stage position, microphones. If you put them second, the transition becomes rushed. Sienna nodded. That's what I thought. I looked at her. You already knew. Yes. Then why ask? She considered the question. Because knowing something and checking something are different. That was a very Sienna answer. The mentorship interview was Thursday. I wore the only button-up shirt I owned that didn't look like I borrowed it from my father. Marcus asked me 3 questions. The first was technical. The second was about teamwork. The third surprised me. Tell me about a time you had to step back. I thought about it, not because I didn't have an answer, because I had too many. In the past, I thought being useful meant solving every problem before anyone else noticed. Marcus nodded. And now? Now I think solving everything yourself can prevent other people from learning. Example? I thought of founders. Sienna Ward. Marcus smiled slightly. The campus organizer? Yeah. What happened? I used to handle every technical problem for her. And now I give her the information she needs and let her make decisions. Why? Because the event belongs to the team, not me. Marcus wrote something down. I noticed. What? Nothing. You smiled. I did. Why? Because most young technicians think control means leadership. He closed the folder. You're starting to understand the difference. When I left the interview, I checked my phone. 3 messages. One from Eli. How did it go? One from Marcus. Good work today. One from Sienna. The rehearsal survived. I smiled. Then, no disasters? Her reply. 1. I stopped walking. What happened? A few seconds later. I had to make a decision without asking you first. I laughed. That's not a disaster. It felt like one. I typed. And? Her answer took longer. I handled it. I stared at those 3 words. Not because they were impressive. Because I knew how hard they were for her. Not technically. Emotionally. She had spent years surrounded by people who made things happen around her. Now she was learning she could make things happen herself. The night before Founders, everything was ready. Almost. At 8:40 p.m., the school received a problem. The guest performers' equipment shipment was delayed. Not canceled. Delayed. They would arrive 2 hours before the show. Normally, that would not be a crisis. Except the performer's setup was different from the original plan. New microphones. Different inputs. Different stage requirements. The activities office called Sienna. She called the technical team. Not me. I was home. That was the agreement. At 9:05, my phone buzzed. A message. Can I call? I looked at it. The old me would have already been driving. This time, I answered the call. Hey. Sienna's voice came through. She sounded tired. What happened? She explained. I listened. Then asked. What have you already tried? Silence. Not because she didn't know. Because nobody had asked her that before. We checked the new equipment list. Good. We moved the soundcheck schedule. Good. We asked the theater department if we can borrow backup equipment. And? They have 2 compatible microphones. Then what's the problem? The setup time. I thought. How much time do you lose? 20 minutes. Can you shorten another transition? Yes. Then do that. Another pause. That's it? Yes. But you're not coming? There it was. The question she didn't mean to ask. I stayed quiet for a second, then answered honestly. No. The silence afterward felt heavy. Not angry. Just unfamiliar. Finally she said, okay. I waited. I know you're right. That mattered. But, she sighed. But I'm used to you appearing. I closed my eyes. There it was. The truth neither of us had said. I know. Do you miss it? The question was softer. I thought about it. I miss knowing exactly where I fit. Sienna was quiet. Then, me too. That surprised me. You? Yes. She sat somewhere silent. I didn't realize how much of my life was built around you being there. I didn't know what to say. So I said, that doesn't mean it was your fault. No. Her voice became quieter. But it means I should have noticed. The next day, Founders Showcase happened. I watched from the audience. Not backstage. Not holding a headset. Not checking cables. Just watching. And honestly, it was strange. Because I knew every place something could go wrong. Every sound cue. Every transition. Every possible mistake. But I wasn't responsible for all of it. The technical team handled it. Eli handled communication. Tyler handled equipment. Sienna handled the entire event. And it worked. Not perfectly. A lighting cue was 3 seconds late. A performer forgot a line. A microphone needed adjustment. Nobody died. Nobody needed me. That was the best part. After the show, Sienna found me outside the auditorium. She looked exhausted. But happy. You watched. Yeah. You didn't help. No. She smiled. I thought you would be uncomfortable. I was. Why? Because I realized I was never the only person who could do it. Sienna looked down. I realized something too. What? She looked at me. I like you being there. My heart reacted before my brain. Old habits. I forced myself to listen. But, she continued, I liked it so much that I forgot to ask whether you wanted to be there. That was different. Very different. I looked at her. Sienna. Yeah? You know this doesn't automatically mean? I know. She interrupted gently. That surprised me. I'm not asking you to go back. She looked toward the empty stage. I don't think I want the old version back. The wind moved through the open doors behind us. For once, neither of us rushed to fill the silence. Then she smiled. Also, what? You still owe me lunch. I laughed. What? You said Friday. That was weeks ago. I remember. You remember everything inconvenient. Yes. That's a problem. She smiled. Maybe. Then she walked toward the parking lot. After 3 steps, she turned. Adrian. Yeah? Good luck with the mentorship. I nodded. Thanks. She left. And I realized something. In my last life, I spent 10 years trying to make Sienna notice me. This time, I stopped chasing. And somehow, that was when she finally started looking. After Founders Showcase ended, I expected things to return to normal. I was wrong. Not because something dramatic happened. Because something subtle changed. Sienna stopped asking me to solve problems. And started asking me to be there. There was a difference. A big one. The Monday after Founders, I arrived at school early for my workshop portfolio review. I expected an empty hallway. Instead, Sienna was sitting outside the auditorium. With 2 drinks. Again. I stopped. She looked up. You're early. So are you. I know. I looked at the drinks. Before you explain, I need to ask. What? Is this becoming a habit? She looked at the cups. Then back at me. Maybe. I almost laughed. You hate habits. I hate bad habits. And this is? She handed me one. I don't know yet. I took it. It was iced tea. Not coffee. I noticed. She noticed me noticing. I remembered. That sentence was simple, but it landed harder than it should have. Because for years, I remembered everything about Sienna. Her favorite drink. Her schedule. Her important dates. Her stress habits. Her food preferences. This was the first time she had remembered something about me without needing a reason. Thanks. She nodded. Then we sat. No emergency. No event. No broken equipment. Just 2 people sitting before class. It felt strangely unfamiliar. You got the interview result? I looked at her. Not yet. You think you'll get in? I think I did my best. That's not what I asked. I smiled. You're becoming annoying. I learned from you. That's concerning. Sienna looked down at her drink. I was thinking about something. What? Your workshop. Yeah? You applied before you stopped helping me. I nodded. So? So maybe you weren't running away from me. The sentence surprised me. I didn't answer immediately. Because she was right. When I first came back, I thought my goal was simple. Stop chasing Sienna. But that wasn't the real goal. The real goal was stopping myself from disappearing. I think I was running towards something. She looked at me. What? My own life. Sienna was quiet, then nodded. I like that answer. You do? Yes. Why? Because if you only stopped because of me, then I would still be the center of your decision. I stared at her. That was a surprisingly mature observation. Sienna smiled slightly. I've been thinking too. That's dangerous. She ignored that. I used to think people showing up for me meant they cared. They do. Yes. She looked at the empty hallway. But I never asked what they gave up to do it. I didn't know what to say. Because that was the first time Sienna had acknowledged the invisible cost. Not because I demanded an apology. Because she had finally noticed. The mentorship results came 2 days later. I was in the workshop room when Marcus called my name. Adrian. I stepped outside. You're selected. For a second, I just stood there. Then I smiled. Really? Really? I looked down. The old me would have immediately searched for someone to tell. Someone who would be proud. Someone who would make the moment feel complete. This time, I let myself enjoy it first. Then I texted Sienna. Not because I needed her reaction. Because I wanted to share good news with someone. I got in. Her reply came almost instantly. I knew you would. I stared at that. Then another message. Sorry. That sounded like I wasn't surprised. I smiled. It's okay. I mean, I'm happy. I know. 3 dots appeared. Can I celebrate with you? I paused. Not because I didn't want to. Because I wanted to understand why. Then. Sure. Sienna chose a small dessert shop downtown. Not the popular one. Not the place where everyone from school gathered. A quiet one with old wooden tables and handwritten menus. You picked somewhere nobody knows? She shrugged. I wanted to talk. That sounds serious. It is. I sat down. What happened? Nothing happened. I raised an eyebrow. She sighed. You're impossible. You taught me. That's becoming my punishment. I smiled. Then she looked at me seriously. Congratulations. Thanks. I mean it. I know. No, I don't think you do. She folded her hands. You spent years making sure everyone else's important moments happened. She looked directly at me. Today was yours. I looked down. That was too close to something I didn't want to admit. How did you know? Know what? That I did that. Sienna thought for a moment. Because I was one of the people benefiting from it. Honest. Not dramatic. Just honest. I should have noticed sooner. You were 17. So were you. That's different. Why? I opened my mouth. Then stopped. Because I didn't have a good answer. Sienna smiled. Exactly. The conversation changed after that. Not into a confession. Not into romance. Something more important first. Understanding. She told me she had been accepted into a leadership program connected to student event management. I wasn't surprised. You like organizing. I do. But? She looked away. But sometimes I don't know if I like it or if I just like being good at it. That surprised me. Because it sounded exactly like something I had struggled with. I understand. You do? Yeah. I looked at my hands. I was good at helping people. And you liked it. Yes. But I didn't know if I liked helping or if I liked being needed. Sienna was quiet. Then she smiled. That's annoying. What? That we have the same problem. I laughed. Different versions. Maybe. The first real conflict after Founders came a week later. Not between us. Between what we wanted. The school announced that the Spring Arts Festival needed a student technical director. Marcus encouraged me to apply. So did Eli. You have the experience now. I don't know. You literally just got accepted into a production mentorship. I know. Then why are you hesitating? I didn't answer. Because the reason was embarrassing. The festival overlapped with Sienna's final student council campaign week. Not because she needed me. She didn't. Because I wanted to be there. That was different. But I couldn't tell if I wanted to support her or if some old part of me was trying to return to my previous role. That night, I sat staring at the application. Then Sienna texted, "Did you apply?" I frowned. "How do you know about it?" "Marcus mentioned it." "Of course." "Not yet." A minute passed. "Why?" I typed. Deleted. Typed again. Finally. "Because I'm trying to figure out whether I want to do it or whether I'm just used to being involved in everything you do." The reply took longer. Almost 5 minutes. Then, "Come to the auditorium tomorrow." That sounded dangerous. Why? Because I want to answer that properly. The next afternoon, Sienna was standing on the empty stage. No audience. No event. No crisis. Just the two of us. "You don't have to choose me." That was her first sentence. I blinked. I didn't say I was. "I know." She walked closer. "That's the point." She looked around the auditorium. "You spent years making your decisions around whether I needed you." I stayed quiet. "I don't want that." "Why?" "Because if you choose me, I want it to be because you want to." The honesty surprised me. Sienna continued, "And if you choose the arts festival, I want it to be because you want that too." I looked at her. "You're making this very inconvenient." She smiled. "I know. You used to make things easier. I'm learning not to." That sentence stayed with me, because it was exactly what I had been asking from myself. The next morning, I submitted my application. Arts Festival Technical Director. Independent project. My choice. Not because Sienna needed me. Not because I was running from her. Because I wanted it. When I told her, she smiled. "Good. That's all?" "Yes." "You're not disappointed?" "No. Not even a little?" She shook her head. Then added, "Actually, I'm proud." I looked at her. She immediately corrected herself. "Not like I own your success." "I know. I know." She smiled. For once, she didn't need to explain. That Friday, something unexpected happened. I was walking toward the auditorium when I heard two students talking. "Isn't it weird?" "What?" "Sienna and Adrian." "Yeah. Last year he was basically always around her. Now she's the one showing up." I stopped. Not because they were wrong. Because they noticed. But when I looked through the auditorium doors, I saw something more important. Sienna was not waiting for me to fix something. She was sitting at the technical table, learning the console. By herself. She looked up when she saw me. Then smiled. Not relieved. Not dependent. Just happy I was there. And for the first time, I realized something. The reason Sienna wouldn't leave me alone wasn't because she had finally lost the person who chased her. It was because she had started choosing the person who stood beside her. The arts festival was supposed to be my biggest opportunity. That was what Marcus told me. That was what Eli told me. And honestly, that was what I wanted it to be. Not because it would impress Sienna. Not because it would prove I could do something without her. Because for the first time in my life, I was building something that belonged entirely to me. The problem was that Sienna was still part of my life. And I was still learning how to handle that. The Arts Festival technical team was smaller than Founders, but more complicated. Founders had a clear structure. One stage, one schedule, one main performance. The Arts Festival had everything. A theater performance, a student band, a dance showcase, a photography exhibit, a poetry reading, different rooms, different equipment, different people who all believed their event was the most important, which meant one thing. Everyone wanted something from the technical team. The old Adrian would have tried to make everyone happy. The new Adrian made a schedule, and then explained why some people had to accept reality. That did not make me popular. It did make the festival possible. 2 weeks into preparation, Sienna came to the technical room. She was carrying a clipboard. I immediately looked suspicious. She noticed. "What?" "Nothing. You thought I was bringing a problem." "No. You did. A little." Sienna rolled her eyes. "I am here because I have a question." "That sounds dangerous." She ignored that. "The dance team wants to add another song." "No." She blinked. "That fast?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because they already have 40 minutes. They're scheduled for 25. They said it's important. Everything is important to someone." She stared at me, then smiled. "You really have changed. Is that good?" "Mostly." "Mostly?" "You're slightly more annoying." "Fair." She looked at the schedule. "Can we move something?" I checked. "No." "Nothing?" "No." "Not even a little?" "No." She nodded. "Okay." Then she walked away. I waited. That was too easy. "Sienna." She turned. "You're not going to argue?" "No." "Why?" She shrugged. Because you explained why. I looked at her. She seemed confused. What? In the past, you would have kept asking. Yes. Why stop? She looked at the schedule. Because I trust your answer. That was a dangerous sentence. Not because it was romantic. Because it was exactly what I had wanted for years. Trust. Not dependence. Trust. The problem came 3 days later. The theater department lost their lighting operator. The replacement had a family emergency. The performance was the centerpiece of the festival. And suddenly everyone looked at the technical director. Me. Marcus was right. Leadership was making decisions when everyone else was looking at you. I gathered the team. We have 2 options. Everyone listened. Option 1, cancel the advanced lighting cues and run a simpler show. Nobody liked that. Option 2, train someone tonight. A freshman named Tyler raised his hand. I can learn. I looked at him. You've never operated lighting. No. You understand that if something goes wrong, everyone sees it? He nodded. I still want to try. The old Adrian would have said no. Too risky. Too much responsibility. He would have taken the board himself. I looked around the room, then nodded. Okay. Tyler smiled. But you're not alone. He looked surprised. We trained together. The next 2 hours were chaos. Not bad chaos. Learning chaos. Tyler made mistakes. We fixed them. He asked questions. I answered. By the end, he could run the basic sequence. Not perfectly, but enough. When everyone left, Eli stayed behind. You realize you would have just done it. I know. You hated watching him struggle. I did. Why didn't you take over? I looked at the empty lighting booth. Because then I would prove he couldn't do it. Eli nodded. And maybe he would believe that. That was the difference. The old Adrian solved problems. The new Adrian built people who could solve problems. The next morning, Sienna found out. Of course she did. She knew everything happening at school. You trained Tyler? I looked up from the equipment list. Yeah. He said you trusted him. I shrugged. He earned it. Sienna was quiet. Then said, you know what's strange? What? I used to think your best quality was that you always knew what to do. I waited. Now I think it's that you know when not to. That sentence stayed with me. Because it was true. And because it came from her. The day before the festival, Sienna asked me something unexpected. Are you free after rehearsal? I looked up. Why? She held up a small envelope. I need your opinion. About what? You'll see. That sounded suspicious. What kind of opinion? Not technical. I stared. Are you sure? She laughed. Yes. That was new. Sienna Ward asking Adrian Cole for something unrelated to fixing things. After rehearsal, she took me to the empty courtyard behind the music building. The envelope contained a letter. I recognized the logo. A university leadership program. Sienna had been accepted. I smiled. That's great. She nodded. I know. You don't sound happy. I am. But? She looked at the letter. I'm scared. That surprised me. Sienna was rarely scared. Not publicly. Not even privately. Why? Because everyone thinks I know exactly what I'm doing. She sat on the bench. And sometimes I don't. I sat beside her. That's normal. I know. She smiled slightly. You always say that. Because it's usually true. She looked at the letter again. I'm going to a school where nobody knows me. That's probably good. She looked offended. Excuse me? You've spent your whole life being Sienna Ward. Yes. Maybe it'll be nice to find out who you are without everyone already deciding. She was quiet, then nodded. That's exactly what you're doing. I looked at her. What? Finding out who Adrian is. I didn't answer. Because she was right. The festival arrived. And for the first time, I was not backstage because Sienna needed me. I was backstage because I was responsible. There was a difference. The show began. The lighting worked. The audio worked. The schedule stayed mostly intact. Mostly. A speaker crackled during the band performance. Tyler looked at me. I nodded. He handled it. 5 minutes later, nobody remembered the problem. That was the best compliment a technician could receive. After the final performance, I found Sienna outside the auditorium. She was holding 2 bottles of water. Again. I smiled. You're really committed to this. She handed one over. I am. Why? She thought about it, then answered honestly. Because I like having something normal with you. I looked at her. No event. No emergency. No request. Just that. That's new. Yes. You're sure? She nodded. I used to think I needed you because you made things easier. And now? She looked at the school lights glowing behind us. Now I think I want you around even when nothing needs fixing. The sentence was quiet. Almost too quiet. But it mattered. I took a breath. Sienna. Yeah? I need you to understand something. Her expression became serious. What? I'm not going back to being the person who waits for you to choose him. She nodded immediately. I know. I mean it. I know. You're not upset? She smiled. No. Why? Because that person wasn't happy. That answer caught me. Sienna continued. I don't want the version of you who follows me. She looked at me. I like the version who walks beside me. For a moment, I forgot how to respond. Then I laughed quietly. You're getting better at this. At what? Saying things that make me uncomfortable. She smiled. I learned from you. The next morning, I received an email from Marcus. The mentorship program wanted one final evaluation. A live demonstration. The date was the same as Sienna's leadership presentation. I stared at the schedule. Again. 2 important things. 2 choices. But this time, I didn't panic. I didn't assume one person had to lose. I called Sienna. She answered immediately. Hey, I need to talk. A pause. Problem? I smiled. No. She laughed softly. Okay. Decision? Yeah. I explained. When I finished, she was quiet, then said, Go. I blinked. That's it? Yes. You don't want me there? I do. That surprised me. But wanting you there doesn't mean asking you to miss something important. I leaned against the wall. Sienna. Adrian. You realize you're making it hard for me to keep thinking you're the problem. She laughed. Good. Then she added. Also. What? After my presentation, I'm coming to your evaluation. You don't have to. I know. Then why? Her answer came without hesitation. Because I want to. And for some reason, that meant more than any grand gesture she could have made. Because this time, she wasn't asking me to choose her. She was choosing me. The final evaluation for the regional production mentorship was held at Harrington Civic Theater. The same place where I had walked in 1 month after being reborn. The same stage where I first realized I could build a future that didn't revolve around Sienna Ward. Except now, when I stood backstage with a headset around my neck, I wasn't running away from anything. I was moving towards something. That difference mattered. Marcus gave us one instruction before the evaluation began. Don't impress us. Everyone looked confused. He continued. Impressive people fail too. Show us how you think. That was harder. Anyone could show a perfect result. The real test was what happened when something went wrong. And live production was built on things going wrong. My assignment was simple on paper. Manage a simulated community performance with changing performer requirements, limited equipment, a short setup window, a team of inexperienced volunteers. Basically, a normal event. The other candidates rushed to build the biggest setup possible. More microphones, more lights, more effects. I didn't. I simplified. One of the evaluators noticed. You are removing equipment. Yes. Why? Because every additional piece creates another possible failure point. He looked at the plan. But it also limits what the performance can do. Yes. So why choose less? I thought about founders. About Tyler. About all the times I had believed being valuable meant doing more. Because the audience doesn't care how much equipment we use. I pointed toward the stage. They care whether the performers can trust the system. Marcus smiled slightly. I continued. My job isn't to make the biggest setup. It's to make the right setup. Halfway through the evaluation, they created the failure. The main audio channel dropped. A volunteer panicked. Someone suggested restarting the entire system. The old Adrian would have jumped in. Fix it. Control it. Prevent embarrassment. Instead, I looked at the team. Backup channel. Nobody moved. Then Tyler's voice appeared in my memory. Trust people. I pointed. You. Check the input. You. Confirm the performer monitor. You. Stay with the audience microphone. Everyone moved. 30 seconds later, the audio returned. The evaluator stopped the timer. That was good. I nodded. Thanks. But you weren't the one who fixed it. No. You're okay with that? I looked at the stage. Yes. Because finally, I understood. A leader wasn't the person everyone needed. A leader was the person who made sure nobody had to depend on one person. When the evaluation ended, Marcus shook my hand. You changed. I smiled. Everyone keeps saying that. Because it's true. He looked toward the stage. When we first met, you were talented. And now you're useful. I laughed. That sounds worse. It's better. He handed me the evaluation folder. You'll hear from us soon. I thanked him. Then I checked my phone. No messages. No missed calls. No emergency. For a second, I felt disappointed. Then I laughed at myself. Old habits. I wasn't supposed to need a crisis to know someone cared. Sienna's leadership presentation ended 30 minutes before my evaluation finished. I arrived at the school auditorium just as students were leaving. I expected to find her exhausted. Instead, I found her sitting on the stage. Alone. She looked up. You came. I smiled. You said you were coming to mine. I did. So? She looked at me. I finished. That's not an answer. Sienna smiled. You're learning. Unfortunately. She laughed. Then looked down. How is it? I sat beside her. Good. Just good? I looked at her. That's my line. I know. For a moment, we just sat there. Two people who had spent months changing without really noticing. Then she asked, did they like you? Yes. Did you like yourself? That question stopped me. Because it was the right one. I think so. Sienna nodded. Good. I asked about her presentation. She looked away. It was okay. That means it was either amazing or terrible. She smiled. Probably somewhere between. What happened? She took a breath. I talked about student leadership. That sounds obvious. It wasn't. She looked at the empty seats. I used to think leadership meant making sure everything went perfectly. And now I think it means letting people participate in making things better. I smiled. That sounds familiar. Yes. She looked at me. You're annoying. Fair. The next week was the final week of school. Everyone was talking about graduation, college, summer plans, new beginnings. The old me remembered that period differently. I remembered every moment I spent trying to stay close to Sienna. Every excuse to see her. Every reason not to move forward. This time was different. I had applications, a mentorship, a future. And somehow, Sienna was still part of it. Not the center. Part. That was healthier. The rumor started on Wednesday. Not a serious one. High school serious. Which meant it felt serious to everyone. Someone saw Sienna and me leaving the auditorium together. Someone else noticed she had started eating lunch with me. By afternoon, people were asking questions. Are you two dating? Eli asked me directly. I looked up from my locker. No. He nodded. Then waited. That's it? What else? You used to spend 3 years hoping she'd ask. That was before. And now? I closed my locker. Now I want something real. Eli smiled. That was disgustingly mature. Thank you. I wasn't complimenting you. I accepted it anyway. Sienna heard the rumors too. I knew because she found me after class. She looked irritated. Not embarrassed. Not worried. I knew that expression. What happened? People are talking. About? She stared. You know. Do I? Adrian. I smiled. She sighed. About us. I waited. What do you want to do? That question surprised me. Because months ago, she would have asked what I thought we should do. Now she asked what I wanted. I don't know. She nodded. Me neither. That honesty felt better than any immediate answer. Then she said, but I don't want to hide. I looked at her. Why? Because hiding makes it feel like something is wrong. And is there? She looked directly at me. No. That evening, we walked around the empty campus. No audience. No event. No reason. Just walking. At the old courtyard, Sienna stopped. This is where you rejected me. I laughed. What? Not rejected. She corrected herself. Where you stopped chasing me. That sounds dramatic. It was dramatic. You're the one who made it dramatic. She smiled. Maybe. Then she became serious. Can I tell you something? Sure. When you stopped showing up everywhere. She paused. I thought I would miss the help. I waited. But I missed you. The sentence was quiet. No performance. No crowd. No campus queen voice. Just Sienna. I looked at her. Sienna. I know. She interrupted gently. I'm not saying this because I lost something. Then why? Because I finally know the difference. She stepped closer. I don't miss having someone who fixes everything. Her eyes met mine. I miss the person who was there. My heartbeat changed. Not because she confessed. Because she understood. I took a breath. I need to ask you something. She nodded. What? In my last life. I stopped. Obviously. Not the words. Not here. Instead. Before. She waited. Would you have chosen me? The question surprised her. Not because she knew the answer. Because she understood the weight behind it. Sienna looked down. Then back at me. I don't know. That hurt. But it was honest. She continued. And that's why I don't want to pretend. I stayed quiet. In the past, I thought you would always be there. She swallowed. I never had to make a choice. The honesty was painful, but necessary. Now, she looked at me. Now I want to. Graduation rehearsal was the next day. Everyone was distracted. Photos. Yearbooks. Goodbyes. I found Sienna near the gym entrance. She was holding something. A folded paper. My stomach tightened. She smiled. Don't worry. What? I'm not giving you another note. I laughed. Good. I learned. She handed it to me anyway. Not a note. A printed photo. It was from the first founders rehearsal. Me at the technical table. Sienna standing beside the stage. Neither of us looking at the camera. You kept this? Yes. Why? She shrugged. Because that was the first time I saw you doing something because you wanted to. I looked at the photo. Not because it was romantic. Because it was proof. The moment everything changed. That night, I received my mentorship acceptance email. I got in. I sat there staring at the screen. Then I did something I had never done before. I didn't immediately tell Sienna. I waited. Not because I didn't want her to know. Because I wanted to experience my own victory first. 10 minutes later, I called her. She answered. Hey. I got in. Silence. Then. I knew you would. I laughed. You're still saying that? Yes. Why? Because now I know you. I looked out my window. And for the first time, that sentence didn't feel like pressure. It felt like trust. The next morning, Sienna showed up outside my classroom. Not with a problem. Not with a request. Just herself. You're becoming predictable. She looked offended. How? You keep appearing. A small smile appeared. Maybe. I shook my head. Sienna. Yeah? You realize you're the one doing this now. Doing what? Showing up. She looked at me. Then smiled. Maybe I learned from the best. And for once, I didn't need to wonder whether she meant it. Graduation day arrived faster than I expected. That was strange. In my first life, I remembered every day of senior year because I spent all of them looking towards something that never happened. Every hallway conversation. Every school event. Every moment Sienna smiled at me. I treated each one like evidence. Evidence that maybe someday she would finally choose me. This time, I remembered senior year differently. Not as the year I finally got Sienna. As the year I finally got myself back. The graduation ceremony was held on the football field. Blue chairs covered the grass. Families filled the stands. Teachers stood near the stage. Everyone looked older than they had a year ago. Or maybe we just looked different because we knew we were leaving. I sat with the rest of the seniors, waiting for our names. Eli was beside me. You're strangely calm. I'm graduating. Yes. I expected that. That's not what I mean. I looked at him. He adjusted his tie. You spent years imagining this moment. Did I? Yes. He smiled. Mostly imagining Sienna finally realizing she loved you. I laughed. That obvious? Painfully. And now? He looked toward the stage. Now you look like someone who's actually here. I smiled. That's probably because I am. When Sienna's name was called, the entire field reacted. Not loudly. Just naturally. That was Sienna. She had spent 4 years becoming someone people remembered. Student council. Events. Community projects. The campus queen title wasn't something she chased. It was something people gave her because she was always visible. She walked across the stage confidently. Then she looked back. For half a second. At me. Not the crowd. Not her parents. Me. Then she continued. I smiled. Not because she looked back. Because she didn't need to. After the ceremony, everyone scattered. Photos. Hugs. Promises to stay in touch. The usual graduation chaos. I found Sienna near the old auditorium entrance. She was holding a small box. What's that? She looked down. Something I made. I immediately became suspicious. You made something? Yes. That's dangerous. She opened the box. Inside was a small wooden keychain. Simple. A little uneven. Definitely handmade. I picked it up. You built this? She nodded. I tried. I smiled. You're terrible at sanding. She looked offended. I know. That's new. What? Admitting it. She laughed. I learned. I turned the keychain over. A tiny engraving was carved into the back. R214. Room 214. The place where everything started. I looked at her. You made this because of the room? Partly. Then why? Sienna looked at the keychain. Because I used to think the important thing was that you helped me build it. She paused. Now I think the important thing was that we both became different people there. I didn't answer. Because she was right. The room mattered. But not because it proved we belonged together. Because it proved we could grow without losing ourselves. We walked around campus one last time. The hallways were almost empty. Graduation made the school feel smaller. Like it was already becoming a memory. At room 214, the door was open. Students were taking pictures inside. The legacy room had become exactly what we hoped. Not a monument. A room. People used it. That was enough. Sienna stood at the entrance. Do you ever think about what would have happened? I knew what she meant. Not the future. The past. If I hadn't opened your note? She nodded. I looked inside the room. I probably would have kept doing what I was doing. Following me? Yeah. Would you have been happy? The honest answer came quickly. No. Sienna looked down. I continued. But I also don't think I would have hated it. She looked surprised. I liked helping you. I know. I liked being around you. I know. I just didn't know I could have both. She understood immediately. Helping someone. Choosing someone. They were not the same. Outside the room, Sienna stopped. I need to tell you something. That sentence still made me nervous. Some habits took longer to disappear. What? She took a breath. I almost didn't apply for my leadership program. I blinked. Why? Because I thought maybe I should choose something closer. I stared. Because of me? She nodded. Maybe. The answer bothered me. Not because I wanted her closer. Because I knew exactly what that feeling was. The desire to adjust your future around someone else. Sienna. I know. She interrupted. That's why I didn't. I waited. I remembered what you told me. What? That you didn't want me to choose a smaller life. I smiled. You remembered that? Yes. You remember everything inconvenient. She smiled. Unfortunately. We sat on the steps outside the auditorium. For a while, neither of us said anything. Then Sienna spoke. I need to ask something. Okay. When we leave. She paused. When we're not here anymore. I waited. Do you think this changes? That was the question. The real one. Not the dramatic high school version. The adult version. Different cities. Different schedules. Different lives. I thought about my first life. How I had confused distance with losing someone. How I had stayed because I was afraid leaving meant losing her. This time, I knew better. I think it will change. Sienna looked down. That sounds scary. It should. She looked at me. Why? Because anything important changes. I held the keychain. The question isn't whether it changes. Then what is it? Whether we change together. She was quiet, then smiled. That's annoyingly reasonable. I learned from you. No, you didn't. Fair. A week later, we left for different cities. Not with promises that nothing would change. Not with impossible plans. Just honesty. My first day at the production mentorship program was overwhelming. New equipment. New people. New expectations. Nobody knew me. Nobody knew Sienna Ward. Nobody knew I had once spent years chasing someone who never asked me to. And that was freeing. Because I wasn't Adrian, the guy behind the campus queen. I was Adrian. A person building something. 3 months later, I was working my first small concert as part of the mentorship program. It was nothing huge. A local band. A few hundred people. A simple stage. Exactly the kind of event I had dreamed about. During soundcheck, my phone buzzed. Sienna. I smiled before answering. Hey, are you busy? I looked around. Actually, yes. Important? Very. A pause. Then. Good. I laughed. What? I like hearing that. Hearing what? That you have something important. I leaned against the stage. How's your program? Good. Just good? She laughed. I hate that you do that. Learn from you. Unfortunately. We talked for 20 minutes. Not about problems. Not about needing help. Just life. Her projects. My work. Things we saw. Things we learned. When we hung up, I looked at the empty stage. And I realized something. In my last life, I spent 10 years waiting for an award to choose me. In this life, she did. But not because I chased harder. Not because I finally became good enough. Because I stopped asking someone else to prove I mattered. I chose my own future first. And when Sienna came toward me, she wasn't filling a space I left empty. She was walking beside a person who already knew where he was going. That was the difference. That was what made it real. That's all for today. Remember to subscribe and support us.